Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host, and somebody wants to play ball. Tonight we're still in the abusive person and the process of change, referencing Lundy Bancroft's book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men. We're now on the subject of the abuser program. Mr. Bancroft tells us that bringing change about in an abusive person generally requires 4 elements. Number 1, consequences. Number 2, education. Number 3, confrontation. And number 4, accountability. Consequences, which is number 1, are manifested primarily through the abusive person's experience of losing his relationship, either temporarily or permanently, or through the legal system, if it's committed any abuse-related crimes, such as threats of assault, including assault. He may also experience consequences in the form of criticism or disapproval from other people in his life. The abuser program has responsibility for items number 2 and 3. 2 was education, 3 was confrontation. Providing the abusive man with education about abuse and confronting him with his attitudes and excuses. A high-quality abuser program is entirely different from therapy. The critical distinctions include a bashing of traditional therapy. Not really a bashing. That's my own opinion. Mr. Bancroft tells us that therapy focuses on the man's feelings, it gives him empathy, and it gives him support, no matter how unreasonable its attitudes give rise to these feelings. An abuser program, on the other hand, focuses on his thinking. The feelings that the abuser program discusses are primarily his partner's and his children's, not his. Therapy involves very few, if any, rules governing what the man is allowed to do during the period that he's in therapy. The abuser program requires a man to refrain from all physical violence and threats and to work seriously on reducing his verbal aggression and other forms of psychological abuse, or he's not allowed to stay in the program. An abusive person's therapist usually will not speak to the abused lady involved, whereas the counselor of a high-quality abuser program always does. Therapy typically will not address any of the central causes of his abusiveness, including the entitlement, coercive control, superiority, disrespect, selfishness, or victim blaming. An abuser program is expected to cover all these issues and, in fact, to make them the primary focus. An abuser program is expected to provide the man with education about abuse, to counsel him on how to apply those concepts to his own life, and to confront his abusive attitudes and excuses. It's rare for therapy to do any of these things. At the same time, an abuser program possesses no more magic than anybody else. The man who makes major life changes as a result of attending an abuser program is the one who chooses to work the program, not the one who sits back and waits for the program to help him, expecting service as he usually does. The successful client neither fights his counselors every step of the way, telling them what ignorant idiots they are, nor kisses up to their rear ends while claiming that the program has caused him to see the light. Rather, he comes weekly with a seriousness of purpose, practices what he's told to practice, and tries to face up to the damage that he's actually done. Bancroft says that he regrets to say that a majority of abusive people do not do the work. It isn't that they can't change. Any abusive person who doesn't have a major medical illness can change, he says, but that they decide they don't wish to. They run a sort of cost-benefit analysis in their heads and decide that the rewards of remaining in control of the partners outweigh any of the costs. They decide that to consider seriously the perspective their counselors are presenting to them is just too uncomfortable and difficult and offends their arrogant sense of certainty about everything, at least about everything having to do with relationships and the particular lady that they're with. Later on in this book, he will offer some suggestions on how you can increase the likelihood that your partner will be among those who do overcome their abusiveness. Bear in mind, though, that the ultimate choice is his. The saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, applies especially well here. Next we'll be covering how do you know if his abuser program is a good one. Bancroft tells us that the first test of the quality of an abuser program is whether the main goal of the staff members appears to be helping you or to be helping him. Mr. Bancroft states that in a responsible program, the abused lady is considered the primary client. The only assistance they should be offering to the man is to educate and challenge him about his abusive behaviors and his abusive attitudes. He, on the other hand, may have numerous other goals, such as for you and him to get back together, to get more visitation with his children, or to reduce his child support payments, to escape criminal charges. But the program has no business assisting him with any of those things. The last thing an abused lady needs is more people helping her abuser to work against her. Those in charge of an abuser program should do the following, says Mr. Bancroft. Number 1, they should contact you immediately after your partner enters the program. In this call, they should be requesting a history of this person's abusive behaviors, any history of substance abuses, and to tell you where you need to go for abused lady services. Number 2, they should warn you that only a minority of abusive people make lasting changes and that a few actually get worse from participating in an abuser program. Number 3, tell you the rules that he's got to follow in order to be in that program. Number 4, describe to you the topics that will be covered in the group meetings and to give you as much detail about these sessions as you request. Number 5, give you any information that you ask for about his attendance and the attitudes he expresses during his time in the program, and about any specific statements he makes in group that you would like to know about. They should not be promising him any confidentiality with respect to you. Number 6, devote most sessions of the program to discussing the core attitudinal and behavioral issues of abuse. Furthermore, you should be given a copy of any written reports generated by the program about the abusive person, such as court reports. These reports should include a full description of all the abuse your partner's admitted to while in the program, including psychological abuse, sexual coercion, and/or violence, any steps towards change he's failed to make. There are various signs you can watch for that indicate an abusive program is not very effective, which would be that counselors fail to contact you or tell you the limitations of what the counseling is likely to accomplish. They tell you they think he's really changing and that he's doing really well. They should know that what you see is what matters, not what they see. Lots of abusive people put on a good show at the abuser program. They try to involve you in couples counseling, suggest that you drop your restraining order, encourage you to communicate with your partner more, or advocate for his interests in any kind of way. They relay messages to you from him. Their group meetings seem to spend a lot of time teaching him to identify his feelings, to apply conflict resolution skills, to manage his anger better, or to deal with other issues that do not affect his underlying beliefs. Their written reports are vague, do not address the steps to change, or give an overly rosy image of his prospects for change without describing any of the steps that he still has left to make. The last video of this series will give Bancroft's final assessment of this whole process of trying to get your abusive person to seek help for its abusiveness.
I am the narcopath.
I know I told you I loved you, too. Obviously, you and I have different definitions of what the word love means. For me, love means you've got something I want, and I'm going to get it, at any cost, no matter what I have to say or do, even if it's fake. That's my version of love. Yours is clearly something different. Love is the word I use to manipulate, to get things I want. And I know you picked up on it. Some of my ex-partners, it's their fault. They would notice what they called a lack of sincerity. We'd go on a date or two, and I'd tell them I was madly in love and wanted to marry them and all that, mainly because of the money they had that I snooped and found out about when they were asleep. And they questioned me about how I could be so quick, They also questioned me when I told them I had been abused too, just like they had. Yet here I was, after date number 1 or 2, wanting to get married, and they thought I must have missed some of my lessons. That really bothered me because I didn't know what to say. Does it make sense? I mean, if I'm trying to pretend like I was an abuse victim, but then rushing into a marriage with someone new, I kind of look stupid. So I had to switch gears for my future target. Never you mind about those. I told you I loved you, and I meant it. Under my definition, not yours. I have conditions for my love. For example, if you don't tell me every day how sexy I am, well, then I'm not going to love you. If you don't treat me wonderfully every single day in this world, I'm not going to love you. I've got strict rules. That's all I know to do with love. You all have some other idea of what love is, and quite frankly, I have no idea what it is, how it feels, or whatever.
All the boys think she's a spy. She's got Betty Davis eyes.
That song was written about me, just so you know, because I am a spy, and I spied on you, and I intend to do more.
Besides,
My Virginia is made of steel! Lick it! Lick it! Lick it!